In this video, we'll cover the basics of designing templates in RapidHarness. Templates are used as the backgrounds for both our top-level and wiring table drawings. They're used to set things like the document page size, page margins, and they also contain all of the default text, images, and fields that we can fill in at the bottom. And in RapidHarness, there are two different templates that you can create. The first one is a drawing template, and this is used for our top-level drawings in both harnesses and systems. And the second template that you can create is a wiring table template, and this one is used for the wiring tables within your harnesses. So to create your own template, you can always click the New button at the top here, and in here you can pick either of these two buttons below to create a drawing template or a wiring table template. And if you do this, you'll create a new design where you can start from scratch. But to get started quickly, I want to show an example of how to clone the default template that we started off with and just quickly change its logo to my own company's logo. So let me click the back button here, and I want to change the default drawing template in the top level. So to get to it, I'll go to the harness assembly on the left here and select drawing template in the design assembly. Now when I right click on this, I can select to view design. And of course, if I wanted to edit any other template, I could always open it using the open button as well. But now that we have this template open, we can see that it's currently versioned and read-only, and it's also owned by the RH team. So to modify this design, I'm going to click the Clone to New Design button up at the top here. And when I do this, we can see we have a new drawing template design. And the first thing I'll do here is change the name of this template to my company name, which we'll say is HL Industries. So in the name field here, I'm just going to type HL, and then I'll leave the rest of this, but I'll delete clone at the end. And I'll just leave the description alone. And all I want to do with this template is just change the logo down here in the bottom right. And to do this, I can click on the image here, and when I right click, I can choose to delete the image. And now I just need to add my own image here. So in the home menu, I can select Insert Image up here. And when I press this, I'm going to choose my own company's logo here. And now that this image is added, all I need to do is click and drag this to move it around, and I can also resize the image using these grips in the corner. So let me just make this fit in this box down here. Make it a little bit smaller. And I can use the arrow keys to move it around a little bit more. And once this is done, I can save my design and we're ready to use it. And one thing to note here is if I want other people in my company to be able to use this design, I'll have to create a version of the design. And for more on that, you can watch the video on working with teams and using version control. But let's go back to our harness for the moment. And now in the drawing template item here, I can right click on it and select Change Design. And here I could search for my design, but in this case it's just showing at the top here. So I'll select this and press Set Template. And now we can see our drawing template has been updated with our new logo here. And I should mention that even though we're working with a brand new harness here, you can always change your drawing templates at any point in your design, so you don't have to do this right at the beginning of your design. But let's talk about the case where you're not just changing the logo and see what it looks like to create a brand new drawing template from scratch. So to do this, I'll click New and then I'll select Drawing Template. And in our new design, let's go ahead and give this a name, and I'll call this DT Demo. And for the description, we'll just put Brand New Design. And even though we just created a brand new drawing template, we can see that it comes with a default page size of 11 by 8.5 inches. And to change this size and the margins, we can do all of that in the Page Setup menu up at the top here. And when I press this, we get this new window, and here we can set a few different things. First, we can set the drawing page size, and we can either pick a standard size here from the top, or we could select to pick a custom size and type in our own values down here. To keep this simple, I'm just going to choose a predefined size and pick this legal one here. And the other thing we can set are the page margins, which are just used as a general keep out area around the edge of the document. and they'll actually control the position of this border surrounding our document here. So I'll just leave these alone for the moment, and when I hit OK, we can see that our page size has changed. And let me zoom out here to make this fit. And now we can see how our page size is set to the legal 14 by 8.5 inches. And aside from just configuring the page size of our document, we can also add text, images, and text fields to our drawing templates. And to add these things, we'll go to the Insert menu at the top here, and in the far right we can see text, image, and text fields. So let's walk through each of these one at a time. And the first one to show is images, which we already did at the beginning of this video. So we can just click image here and select our own image, and then we can take these images and drag them and move them around. And we can also resize them with these grips in the corner. The next thing we can add is text, and text is just used for adding some text to your drawing template. So when I click this, we can see a text box is added to our harness here. And just like with images, I can click and move this around, as well as grab these grips here to resize it. So let me move this down to the bottom corner here, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. And if I double click on this text box, then I can actually edit the content. So let's go ahead and change this one here to say part number. And the last thing I can do with text is when a text box is selected, I can go to the Home menu, and in here I can adjust all the font properties of this text. So for instance, I could change the font itself to something like Times New Roman. I could change the size to make it a little bit bigger. And I can also adjust the orientation to make this text be aligned to the top, or let's make it aligned to the bottom. And then horizontally we can set it to the left. And over in the left we can change if it's bold, italic, or underlined. And these last few here are for changing the font color, fill color, border color, and the border thickness itself. So we could make this border, for instance, a little bit thicker here. And that's all there is to modifying text. The last type that we can add is a text field. So let's go back to the Insert menu here, and we'll add a text field. And text fields are used as placeholders where you can type and edit their content when this drawing template is used within a harness. So text fields are really useful when you're working within your harnesses. So let's say we wanted to use this field as one where the user could enter their part number. And what I'll do is move this field down next to the part number text that we added a minute ago, and I'll resize it here to fit inside a little bit better. And just like with text, I can actually click to edit the font properties. So let's go back to the Home menu, and let's change this one to not have a border here. And now when we use this template within a harness, we'll have a place to put our part number. So let's check that out. And I'm going to save this design. And then let's go to our templates demo, and let's change our drawing template to be our brand new design here. And we'll fit it to our screen again. And now we can see that text field that we added next to our part number here. And if I click and select, I can type my own custom part number here. So that gives you the basic idea as to how to use drawing templates. Clearly, you can make much more complex and elaborate designs using these fundamental ideas. And the last template I want to show is creating a wiring table template. So let's go ahead and create a new wiring table template here. And let's give our wiring table template a name. So I'll just call this one wiring table template demo, and we'll do the same description. And now here on the right, we can see that even though this design is brand new, RapidHarness is showing us a table that will be used to list all of the connections within our harness. And the placement of this table is configured in the page setup dialog using the margin properties. So let's go ahead and open that up here. And now we can see this top margin is 1.5 inches. So if I change this margin to be 1 inches, for example, and press OK, now we can see this table starts at the 1 inch mark. And of course, just like with our drawing templates, we can insert the same three things, text, images, and text fields, but I won't show these again right now. The last set of things that we can configure are in the left half area of the screen under the assembly. First of all, we can choose to configure which columns to use using these checkboxes here. And right now the template is configured with some default options, but if, for instance, you didn't want to show the From Contact Part Number column, I can go over to the left area of the screen here and uncheck the From Contact Part Number option. And now if we look over on the right, that column is no longer appearing. And the last option we can configure is the option to include reverse connections. And if you have this option unchecked, you'll see each connection in your harness show up as one row in this wiring table. But if you keep this option as selected to show the reverse connections, then each connection in your harness will actually show up as two individual rows in the wiring table. So for example, if you had a connection between connector A and connector B, you would see one row showing A to B, as well as a second row showing you B to A. And although this seems counterintuitive at first, it commonly makes harness production and debugging a lot easier. And the reason for this is because all the rows are automatically sorted by the from and to columns, you can more easily look up every connection in your harness, and as well you know when it's safe to close out and to finish up a connector. And I have one sample here to showcase this option, so let me open it. And here it is. And this harness is very basic. It has 3 connectors in it, and if we look at the connections, there are 6 connections, so it's a very small harness. And if we look at the wiring table, because right now we have a template that includes the reverse connections, we actually see 12 total rows here. And because we have this reverse connections, we can very easily look up all the connections associated with every connector without having to search through the to column. So for instance, if we want to look for all the connections to connector C2, I can easily see them appear in order right here. And if we didn't show the reverse connections, we would have to hunt through the entire table looking at both the from and the to columns. So hopefully you can see why we recommend leaving this option checked, especially as your harnesses get much more complex. And that covers the basics of designing templates.